Right, here we go. Say continue in here. Go continue in the other. Hello, everybody. Hi, my name is Leigh Ralston. I'm also known as Mommy Leigh on the internet. And I just want to take this moment to say hello to everybody from all around the globe, all around the United States. Oh my. Thank you so much for joining today. It's always super exciting to be with Faber-Castell and Michaels to teach and also share with you my tricks and some tips of everything that I've learned throughout the past 10 years that I've been doing lettering and doodling and anything when it comes to art and creative stuff. It's always a pleasure to share. It's such a joy for me to do this, and I'm super glad that you were here. Thank you for taking the time out of your precious, day to be here with us today. Today we're going to have a fun workshop that's going to be about lettering, creative lettering, brush lettering, somewhere about that. But we're going to learn compositions. It's going to be great because this is something that I struggled for the longest time when it comes to basic composition, just composing, quotes and that I see online, I see on Instagram, Pinterest, everywhere. And I'm like, how do they do that? So we're going to go learn the fundamentals, basically the basic. And this trick that I will teach you today will really help you just to get the hang of how to create the basic composition. But before we proceed, I would like everybody to know, of course, that this class is being recorded. And if you need to replay and review some of the things that we're going to be talking about today, you can always find this video on YouTube over at Michael's. And also, before we proceed, I also want to take this opportunity to greet all the mommies out here today. Advance Happy Mother's Day. And I hope that you'll be spoiled rotten because you deserve that, not just on that day, but every day. But anyway, so let's go proceed to our workshop. We'll head on over to the overhead camera that we hope will not give us any problem today. All right, so here we go. Before we talk about lettering and all that stuff, let us, well, that's a little too bright, isn't it? Here we go. Let's talk a little bit, here we go, a little bit about the papers and all the materials that I like to use when it comes to lettering. What I have here is a Rhodia pad. I love using this Rhodia pad for practice. And you can find these over at Michael's as well. And then it comes also in this small size. Oh, I guess the black is giving us contrast. Okay, so it is always recommended that we use paper that has a very smooth surface. You can also use a vellum paper. You can use some Bristol paper. You can also find like markers and all that marker pad. I do have a sample of that too. This one is from Hanson, and then this one is from Strathmore. So there's many brands out there that you can get. Also, if you don't want to spend a whole lot of money for your marker pads, you can also get copy paper that I really love using. It is the HP lacer paper. I can have it in here so I can just quickly show you. So this is the HP paper. This is premium 32. So it's a 32 pound or a 120 GSM. This is a very smooth paper, and I think you're going to love it if you use a lot of brush pens with your lettering. Having a smooth surface when it comes to lettering, just you're giving longevity to your brush pens. You're not going to hurt them as fast as you would if you would use a regular copy paper, just because you're using felt tip, and if your paper is not smooth and if it's scratchy, it's going to hurt the brush tip of your brush pen. It doesn't matter what brand of brush pen that you are using. If you're not using a good paper, you're not going to enjoy your journey when it comes to lettering. Also, one thing that I like to recommend is to maybe keep a journal if you are a beginner when it comes to lettering, because having having all your creations in one place, not only it is very inspiring, but also it will give you a reference of your progress. And I think to me that is very, very important to have a reference that you can look back on and just see, okay, how am I doing now? I've been practicing for quite a while, and brush lettering is not an overnight thing. It really would take you a long time. So patience is really required, and repetition is really the key to be your best with everything. It's not just for lettering, but for any type of artwork and in life. Okay, so today I want to go back a little bit, not too much, because I don't want to spend all my time blibber blabbering, and I tend to do that quite a lot. So just tell me. But let me know also if I am going a little too fast. Sometimes I do that as well. So let's talk about just the fundamental first when it comes to brush lettering. When you're using brush lettering, and if you want to do that modern calligraphy look that you see on the internet, there's really two basic strokes that you need to learn. This is your downstroke and your upstroke. Downstroke means you're thick, and then your upstroke is also your thin. One thing you want to understand when you're doing your downstroke and upstroke, what feels natural to you when you're writing? I am very heavy handed. So that means my downstroke comes natural to me because I write heavy. So I always give pressure to my pen when I'm writing. I always struggle with my upstroke, believe it or not, just because of the way I naturally write. So this is when I have to really remind myself to be intentional and to really take my time when I'm doing my upstrokes. So what is it about the downstroke and the upstroke? When you're composing your letters, when it comes to the brush lettering, what we're doing is we're trying to mimic the old calligraphy style that has that beautiful thin and thick lines. And we can actually attain that by the pressure that we put in using our brush pens. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see the letters quite well. Here we go. So when we're doing our downstroke, remember that it's going to be thick. So I am going down, I'm going to apply pressure in my pen, and I'm going up. That means I have to use the tip of the pen. Okay, so let's change it to a black so you guys can really see the letters. Hold on. Okay, so again, downstroke means adding pressure. Upstroke is very thin. So downstroke, thick, and then upstroke is really, really thin. Do that again, downstroke thick, upstroke light. Hmm, why is my pen giving me a hard time? Let's use it, green. Downstroke, thick, upstroke, thin. Right. So one thing that you want to practice is the position of your hands. So when you're writing, I naturally write, documents, signing documents, or just really writing in my journals, I have the tendency to just have my pen pointed down like this. But when we are using brush pens, we want to make sure that our hands are really rested on the side, and our brush pens are facing, 45 degrees, like that, approximately. And then once we're doing this, because when we're doing our downstroke, look at what's going to happen if I am not facing my pen this way, slanted, and my hands are not slanted either. If I'm going to do this like this, and I'm going to create a up downstroke thick, look at my line. Look at the difference when I rest my hands on the right and my brush pen is slightly 45 degrees. Do you see the difference? So if you're going to do this writing with a downstroke, you will not get the consistent width of your downstroke. You want to make sure that your brush pen is sideways like this, and then apply pressure to create your thick strokes like that. Even when we're doing letters, you want to make sure that your brush pen is always slanted because that's how you're going to create the consistent thick stroke. And always try to practice downstroke, 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 and then apply your thin like this. And this is really where I struggle also. So please don't get frustrated when you're not getting the thin stroke that you want, but with practice and consistency, it's really there's nothing that you can't do. Okay, so now that we've got really the fundamental, the two strokes that you want to practice of when creating hand lettering, I want to teach you about the basic compositions. Now we want to learn how to create quotes. And how I do this is really simple. It's almost funny, but it really helps. Lori, I see your comments. My down is not very different from my thin. The reason to that is maybe because you're not being light when you're doing your upstroke, or you're not applying enough pressure when you're doing your downstroke. So again, when you're doing your down, make sure to apply pressure. When you're doing your upstroke, very thin. I mean, really think like a feather. I know it's hard. For me, it's really hard. I know I keep repeating myself, but it really is frustrating also to just remember to just really go light because I really write heavy. Okay, so let's go back to the basic composition. Let's start with 3 words because we don't want to use like the example that I created, the quote like that. But before we proceed to something longer, let's try with just 3 basic words. Let's say you got this. Okay, if I'm going to think about the word you got this, one thing you want to understand is, okay, there's 3. Let's write it down first, like regular writing. Get your pencils and eraser. So let's analyze this one. I know it's a little hard to see, but I have to use pencil for this one. Let's lower down the brightness. Maybe that will help. Okay, so you got this. If we want to letter this, this is going to, what it looks like is a print. Now, if we want to do calligraphy style, let's see of just writing it in script. You don't have to do your thin and thick. We're just going to write the words in script. Okay. So you got this. One thing to understand when we're doing basic composition, pencil is really, really important. I was not good at this, but I tried to better myself because I realized that it really helps using pencil first. And when you're trying to write down your first draft, make sure that you're not giving too much pressure on your pencil so that you can easily erase it and it will not look like a blob of mess after. Um, so just go lightly with your pencil and just write down the words. And we're going to figure out how we're going to do the basic composition. Now we understand what it's going to look like when it's a print, and we also have an idea what it looks like when it's on a script. One thing to understand and really important to remember is that you are not married to an idea. You have to really throw in ideas in here for you to get somewhere. I hope that makes sense. Because unless you really want something to be the specific look, then of course you're married to that idea. But let's say I want it in a vertical, instead of a horizontal. So we're going to try this. We have 3 letters that are capital. So, okay, you want to make sure that under the Y, because if we write it this way, let me just show you. See how the Y is going to get in the way of the G. Does that make sense? Let me just use this just so you can see it. So if I write down, I'm going to use a small. So if I write down the word you, and I'm going to write down got this because it's a capital. If we want to use a capital, then the Y is definitely going to get in the way of the G, and the G is definitely going to get in the way of the T. So this is where it's going to come in, where you keep analyzing the words. Okay, so that's not going to work. So how about if I move in my G? Okay, I still want a capital G, then we can definitely do that. You can certainly do it this way, slanted to the side. That's one idea. Or we can always do this as well. How about we make the G in a small cap, okay? And then we write the T over here this way. We're getting somewhere now. See how it's just analyzing those 3 words and also the letters. We're trying to build something in here. Okay, I like that, but I really don't necessarily love, I know it's a personal thing, but I'm not in love with this yet. So how can I change this? All right, now we want to start with the Y. I still want the capital G. Okay. How about if I make the got into a print? Let's try that. Remember, you are not married to an idea. You have to throw in many different options in here. I would normally use this, I mean, do this using a pencil, but I know it's hard to see it on screen. So, okay. All right, we're definitely getting somewhere. I love this. I love that the word got is in capital and it's in print and not in script. So I really, really love that. Now, if we want to flourish and add something in here to make it little extra instead of just very plain, you got this. What I would normally do, I'm going to use a pencil for this time, but then I'm going to use a mechanical pencil. So I think it writes much better. Right. So let's try and do that again. So U is in script. And then I have my loop slanted over here on the side. So I'll have enough space for the got. So U, right? And then I'm going to write the got again in capital and in print mode, right? And then the word this. Do I like that style of T or do I like this style? And that's why I keep doing this over and over and over in my head, guys, when I'm trying to write a quote like this. Okay, I like this. All right. Now, how can I make this better? For example, for this instance, if I am going to make this a little extra, I'm going to erase this one because I feel like it's too much of a loop. So I'm going to erase that. I'm just going to make sure that it's not so much in the middle part of my T, just a little bit like this. But to create the extraness or the flourish, what I'm going to be doing is this, so you can see it first, like that. So I'm just going to continue where I left it. So basically from here, I'm going to try and go up a little bit and then make a small loop and kind of go like that, slanted. Did we get that one? Okay, so I'm going to try and do this in the T. All right, there we go. So I'm going to erase this so because we have this over here and this one is here, but still a little bit unbalanced. So I feel like, okay, that's a little too much to the left that we have so much over here as well. So that's not making me happy also. When I told you that we're going to be erasing and going into a lot of ideas in here, I am not lying. This is really how you do the basic composition, is analyzing all the letters and the spaces in between of your words. So, okay, so we have it here going up like that. So how can I fix this to have this kind of extraness over here? I can certainly make this letter into a small cap. Okay, let's try that. Let's try a small t. Okay, so we have a small t. Now I can make the extraness like this. So from here, I'm going to do the loop a little bit and like this. Definitely not good. I'm just going to fix that loop. Okay, there we go. So now I feel like everything is now balanced. In my eyes, it's going to be a personal battle. It's going to be up to you. It's going to be about your preference, what you think looks good already and what doesn't look good. I know it's really hard, but also at the same time, the process is what makes what's going to make you better. Once you understand, it's like, okay, I want it in script, or no, I don't want that in script. I want this in print, and you can always go back and forth and back and forth. And that's why pencil is really important in having an eraser. So this time, if I'm going to basically create my piece now, what I'm going to do is use an eraser, and I'm going to erase, but not so much. I know it's very counterproductive, but that's how it's going to work. Basically, you just want a little bit of the shadow where you're going to see the lines that we created earlier. So you just have a guide. So we don't want to lose that guide because that's what we're going to follow. You could also use a tracing paper. Sometimes I do that with a tracing paper, and then I go ahead and create my letters on top. So basically using the I'm sorry, I'm trying to find another marker. Basically, um, putting my final piece on a tracing paper. All right, so now we have you got this. So where is our Y? We're going to, so again, remember basic stroke, downstroke is thick and upstroke is thin. Whew, this is hard because I have my P small also. And it's even harder for me when I have a small piece like this, because this is where I'm like, I really have to go light with my upstroke. And sometimes, to be completely honest, it's difficult. Okay, I keep repeating myself, but let's do this. I got this. Like what the quote says. You and if you're following me on Instagram, you're going to see a lot of lettering videos in there. And please do know that those are recorded in a time lapse mode. So those are fast. I definitely don't write that fast. Okay, so we have the Y. I want to go over and do the O. And sometimes you have, if you have to stop in the middle of a letter to kind of pick up where, where you're going upstroke. And I do that still sometimes. So I just go like this. So, okay, so we have the O, and then we're going to have the U. And another thing that I like to remind my students when I'm doing workshop is that you don't have to get it right the first time. You really don't. It's you can always come back in and kind of thicken the letters. There is no wrong in doing that. I don't care what everybody would say, might as well practice the downstroke and the thin stroke. But if you're struggling, I don't see anything wrong with just writing it in not consistent strokes first, and then come back in and add your thick strokes. And I think the creative lettering process is really just that. It's just trying to figure out what works and what's not working. Okay, so we have, I don't know where my T, okay, here's my T. Downstroke is thick. Oh, I have to go thick and then thin. And then we're gonna do the loop like that. We have you got this. So basically that's very simple composition because we have only 3 words. Okay, I still see a lot of question when it comes to the brush. Pitt Artist Pens comes with many different tips. They have a set of black pen that has extra small, they have a small, they have fine, they have a medium, they have a brush, a soft brush, chiseled and soft chiseled as well. But today I am using brush pens that has a brush tip. I guess I didn't um, tell you that the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pens are water-based India ink. And India ink is really amazing when it comes to not bleeding through. If you're using journaling pages that, a little bit on the thin side of a paper, you don't have to worry about bleed throughs when it comes to that. And also the Pitt Artist, the brush pens, it's like getting 2 pens at once. So if you think like you've frayed the tip of your brush pens, and I do that quite often just because I write heavy, like what I said. You can flip this around, get a tweezer, flip it, and then you'll get an extra nib on the other end and just, put it right back in. And then you get so it's like getting 2 nibs at one pen. All right. So I see some comments also talking about that they're lefties. Basically, the same principle applies to you, but doing on the opposite side. Let me just unzoom it. Here we go. So the lefties, if I am writing this way, basically, if you're a lefty, you still do the same principle where your hands are making sure that your hands are laid down, where you have control. And the way I hold my pen might be different than the way you hold yours. Of course, we all have different ways of holding our pens. I see some people hold it this way, but as long as your brush pen is slanted sideways, then you won't have the issue. You will still get your thick and then thin line, right? So same principle, I can't. So when you're going, even if I tried, guys, it's going to look really, really bad, but I'm going to try for you so we can just have a little bit of a laugh. Oh Lord, I'm applying my brush. All right, that is an epic failure. We're not going to try and do that again because that's really embarrassing. Okay, but same principle goes. Downstroke going down and pressure, and then thin stroke, that means very, very, very light pressure. All right, so let's try another quote that we can practice here. Okay, so let's, how about 4 words? How about I am loved? First, of course, I'm going to write down 4 words. Say 4 words. Let's add very. I am very loved. Okay, now we're 4. Oh man, I'm really bad at math. I am very blessed. There we go. I like that. Good affirmations. I always use a lot of positive affirmations in my journals and my planners. I love seeing them because it just gives a lot of positivity and it's just all around good energy. Okay, so we're going to zoom in again so we can really analyze these 4 words. I am very blessed. Okay, so just a little thing here. I personally do not like to write, I don't like to write capital letters in script. I don't know. I just have this thing about the capital letters in script. It's just, it doesn't look good. I don't know why our light is doing. Excuse me for 1 second. Let me fix that. Okay. Um, I don't like writing capital letters in script. It's just me. It could just be me. But I'm having, not just because I'm having trouble with it, but I just don't like the way it looks. So if I'm going to write the I, I'm going to write it this way. You know, I see some people like write I this way. That's the script. I just have a lot of trouble. I don't like the way it looks. So let's just pretend that I'm going to write the I this way. I am, and then try to do the script. I am very blessed. Okay. So let's try to analyze it. I would like, sometimes finding also your focal point will help you to analyze your composition. So for example, with this one, if I am, those are two powerful words. So I'm going to write it big. I am. Okay. I'm going to compose this to how I would normally compose my quotes. So you can follow along here. So I am very, I want the very, maybe in my first idea, I feel like I want the very to be my focal point. Okay. And then we have the word blessed. So I'll write this in the capital B. Another tip, when doing creative lettering, there is nothing wrong in um, combining small caps to, big letters. I have no problem doing that. I actually enjoy that very much. Sometimes I would write one word in print and I would write one, I mean, not word, I would write one letter in print and I would write another letter in script. And when you're doing creative lettering, that's actually part of what makes it creative because it's not just one look. We're looking for many different looks in here. So I'm okay with this. So I want to try something else also. So and also when my when I'm lettering, I really don't, I know the word I should be written in the big cap or large letter, but it's okay. So I am very, now we can add a little bit extra. So some extras that I like to use when I'm creating quotes are some basic doodles like stars. I like to add heart. I like to add, plus sign or X. I also like to add a little bit of like a raindrop look like this. And we're going to do this later. We're going to add that. Basic flowers, just cute flowers. I like to add that. And then flags. So this is what I'm going to do here. So I want my eyes to go in the very. So how can I do that? I can put it inside a shape. So in this instance, since I'm doing it slanted, I can create a flag in here. So like this, like that, just slanted. And then go ahead again and then try that. So this is just our basic idea. So I'm going to put the word very in here and I'm going to do it in print. Okay, so I am very, and then this time I'm going to write this in capital B instead of a small b, right? You're going to see how my letters are inconsistent. So sometimes even in the middle of the word, I would make one letter big. So try to play around with that idea, inconsistent sizes of your letters, even in just one whole word. So I am very blessed. I like that because now, as you can see, when we look at the quote here, my eyes go directly to the word very, right? So this is something that I would probably do. So let's try to do that let's complete that one. But still, I'm going to use my pencil first, and I'm going to try and mimic what we did earlier. So basically, hey, let us try and do okay, I am, I'm just going very lightly with my pencil so we can erase it and we don't have an issue. Okay, I want to try something here. Bear with me. Let's try and do this in script, the word very also, and see what it looks like. And then try the word blessed in print. But we're going to follow the shape of the flag. So basically I started with smaller b, and our letters are going to go bigger while we go here sideways. So, blessed. Obviously, I have to adjust my spacing. So can you see here? So here, basically, I'm like, okay, that's a little too squished on the end. So that's certainly something that I can change. And I really like this look as well. But again, it's going to be a personal preference. So I feel like I have to adjust my spaces in here. So let's do that. I'm going to just, okay, put that flag back. So letter B. And then I was in here and I can see where I wrote that letter L. Make sure that I have space now. And then I write my E. And I think this is where I struggle the most when composing is that spacing. It's like I have to keep repeating it over and over before I get the correct spacing. And but patience is the key. So I am very blessed. Here we go. I feel like it's okay. I just have to adjust my letter B in here. I made letter L that way. Okay. This time I'm going to use a small tip, and we're going to show you how you can still create that old calligraphy look by just using a different tip and not a brush tip. And so this time, yeah, if you are very OCD, you might have to get a big eraser because you're going to have to keep going back and forth with your letters. Okay, so just erasing lightly, and we're going to ready to write this. Ooh, I think I erased too much. I have that problem. Okay. So I'm just using the small tip of the Faber-Castell PITT artist, and we can still create that thin and thick. I'm going to show you. So you're like getting 3 classes here today because we're doing a faux calligraphy also, and then try to learn the brush calligraphy. And to be completely honest with you, if you struggle with the brush tip or the brush pen, there is no shame in using just a fine tip. And we're going to learn how you can still create those beautiful calligraphy. Or sometimes it's always the experience of just writing with a brush pen that is so fun. I mean, personally, I do love using the brush tip. It's just such a joy. Okay, very. I must add that if you're going to do the faux calligraphy, you have to be very intentional with the spacing of your letters. And you're going to see why later, because when we're doing faux calligraphy, basically how I approach this is I always add the width, or to mimic that downstroke, I always add the extra stroke on the right side. But to be completely honest with you, it doesn't always happen because sometimes I'm not mindful of I'm not mindful enough of my spacing, and that's where I struggle a little bit. But again, with practice, there's nothing that we cannot do. All right. Even that look, that monoscript, I call this monoscript, and it's really clean and very pretty. I really love this look sometimes too. But if we want to mimic the modern, calligraphy or the brush lettering, this is where we're going to add some extra strokes and start shading in. So what did we learn from the brush calligraphy is that when we're going down, that's when the downstroke is going to. So sometimes I still have to do this to understand where I go down. Okay, so this is my downstroke here. And I'm just going to add a little bit to the right. You see that? I'm going to do this, make it thick and a shade in. So I added that extra stroke in the letter I, and I'm just going to shade this in. So it really looks like we just did that thin and thick line. It looks so pretty. So I'm going to do the same. This is where I did my downstroke. Okay, so basically add my extra stroke in here and then shade this part right here. Okay. What you want in this stage is to have a consistent, okay? You want to make sure that you have a consistent width of all your downstroke. So this part is also downstroke, so I'm going to add a little bit of that extra stroke in here and then shade it again. Okay. Don't give yourself a hard time in the beginning because we can always come back in and start shading if, one is too thin or one is, we want to make sure is that it's hard to take out. It's easier to add. So just be mindful of that one. So I feel like if I'm going to add my stroke over here to the right, it might look odd. So this is the case where sometimes I contradict what I say, but it just depends on if you were mindful about your spacing. And I definitely was not mindful of my spacing here for the letter M. So I added my stroke to the left instead of the right of my line or my stroke. Okay, so here I went upstroke, so I don't have to add anything in there. So this is definitely downstroke. I'm going to add here. So I'm not going to make it too thick. I have to just adjust that part. And this one is thin stroke. This one is downstroke for sure. So we go back in and not shade this part. Okay, so that's the I am. And sometimes doing the faux calligraphy will, I think, give you sharper lines when it comes to adding your thick lines. All right, okay, so now blessed. Sometimes I have to do this over and over just to understand where the downstroke is. And it's okay. There's no shame in doing that. So I had this downstroke. This one is the downstroke. Okay. So this one has to be thick. Okay. All right. This is the small tip. So this one upstroke, upstroke. So this is where we're going to add an extra shading. And again, I added to the left. So sometimes you have to just adjust. It doesn't always have to be on the right. This one upstroke, downstroke here. Okay, I can add it here and also fix this one. And what I love about this style of calligraphy, the faux calligraphy, is that I can sort of fix things and my spacing by adding these extra shading to our letters. So that's upstroke and this is the Y. And there's also something so relaxing about shading, an open space like that. Okay, so I am very blessed. Now, this time, really for sure, we can still do the mimic, even if it's not a script. Yes, you can still mimic that, the thin and thick lines. as long as you follow the downstroke is thick and the upstroke is thin. So this was definitely a thick. So I'm just going to add extra line in here, and it's wonky. I can never do straight line straight. And that's okay. So we're just going to add that here. So this one, I did a downstroke. So I'm going to add my stroke in here. And see, I added to the left instead of the right because you have to analyze your letter. If you feel like, okay, it's going to be really extra thick now if I added it to my right. So just analyze each letter as you go along. And again, practice will help you do that. Also understanding the look of the letters that you want. You might want a block lettering and that's okay too. Everything is just thick. So I'm going to add this one and just start shading this. Okay. And then I'm going to add here. When I'm doing calligraphy, it's like it puts me on a trance. It's really puts me in this very relaxing state of mind. It's like being a kid again, where you forget about things. You really do. Okay, so here, like what I said earlier, this gives me an opportunity to kind of correct some of the lines or the strokes I created earlier. So here, I want to add my thick here, over here in the letter S, and here also. Okay, so we have that. I know I went here, but don't necessarily would like to add thick. We'll pass this first, and I'll just do this first. Again, like what I said, sometimes it's really all about personal preference. That look, you have that look that you want. And by really analyzing your words, your letters, your words, and your composition, what it does is that you're really don't need to go online to look for reference, because when you have lots of ideas and you write it down with your pencil, you're actually you're giving yourself enough ideas that you don't have to get it from somebody else. You don't have to go on Instagram just for ideas. So just keep writing the quote over and over in different ways, like what we did earlier. Some are scripted, some are print, and that way you can see how by just positioning them, or just by changing the size, or by just changing from something from print to a script, or changing the height of your one letter to the other, it changes the look of the letters. So here, now this is where adjustment happens. I feel like, okay, I can definitely add a little bit here. I love the sans serif look. I love that little wings, and I just adore it. This is my go-to. I love the sans serif. So here I'm going to add thickness to that extra loops that we created. So here, and then here, like that. So you can definitely use some colored pencils when doing this. That's another style that you can do. I love using colored pencils when lettering too. Yes, you don't have to just use brush pens or markers. You can certainly use other mediums when it comes to lettering. And colored pencils, it's kind of like using a fine point pen. It will give you really great control. So you can just always come back in and then do what we're doing right now. We're basically doing the faux calligraphy, and that's what's going to happen when you use some colored pencils. All right. And then this one, just going to add that. There. Now you can just analyze this and say, okay, what can I adjust in here? Okay, I want to just add a little bit more here. And then you might want to color in your flag, or you might want to close your flag in. Oh, how can I do this? Basically, like, something like that. And then you can color that in if you choose. Let's blue and yellow. You can color in the whole shape, or you can create a border this way, basically just enclosing the word. And now you're building focal point in here. Okay, I also want to teach you a little bit of extra tip in here. You know how you see those calligraphy and lettering that has um, shadows and it looks super cool? And I agree, they look super cool. And I'm like figuring out how to do that in the beginning while I was practicing. So let's do the blue so you can really see it. Remember how what I said when it comes to adding your downstroke when you're doing your faux calligraphy. It's basically kind of like doing the same thing. We're going to add the shadow. You choose, it's going to be up to you. You can choose to the left or to the right, but don't do the two options in one lettering because that will not look good. Because basically you're creating two different light source because we're creating shadow. So you want the shadow to be consistent. You pick, it's either we're adding the shadow to the right of the letter or the stroke that we created, or we're adding it to the left. I personally love adding it to the right, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So the word I am, when I say to the right, so this is the letter. So I'm going to add my shadow to the right one. I stop in there, right? I'm going to add a little bit of blue in here, like that. So here, this letter here, I'm going to add this here also. And this one as well. But just follow along that shape of that letter. Okay. And then here I have to the right also. And I have a little bit here to the right. And again, don't get frustrated if it doesn't look perfect in the beginning. You can just practice, and then try it again. All right, just keep adding. I'm just going to keep adding to my right. There we go. And here also, I can add this here. And then to the right too. All right, so this one, I'm going to add this here. And then go over here. And then there. The letter L is here. And then a little bit here. This one here, 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 and then here. This one, S. And that's what I was doing wrong in the beginning, is that I would do the two options. Sometimes my shadow would be on the left, sometimes my shadow would be on the right. And so that's why I'm like, it does not look right. Nah, and that's why. So you just pick one side and one piece of lettering quote. Okay, so there. If you're going to choose left, stick to the left. And if you're going to choose right, stick to the right. All right. I love that. And then how you can make this a little bit extra too. Another tip you can do here is like, this is really, I do this way very intuitive. So I don't know how to teach this one because I just do it intuitively. It depends on where you want to put it. Don't overthink, just enjoy the process. And I think that's really important when you're trying to learn something, is like what looks good and what doesn't look good is going to be up to you, because no one is going to judge you other than yourself. You judge yourself. Trust me, you're already judging yourself harshly. So just be gentle with yourself, whatever it is that you're trying to learn, whether it's journaling or calligraphy or doodles and all that, but just be gentle, and also trying to do things intuitively as well is part of really enjoying that process. As you can see, I had no rules. I was just adding this extra lines of color pink to which wherever I wanted. But as long as you're doing it intuitively, but also be mindful of where you're going to put it. Is it going to distract, the whole piece? Is it going to, or it will add? So if it's just going to add messiness and without any purpose, might want to skip on that one. So just be mindful. I mean, always try to do that. So I'm want to kind of do what I added there, but I want to bring in the pink. Since I brought in the pink, how can I do that? Because I really like the pink color in here. Now, this is where it's going to come in, right? So adding shapes and doodles and all that is what's going to give a little bit of extraness in a composition. So I want to add the pink in here. So I'm going to add this three kind of like very stretched teardrop. So one is facing to the left, one is slightly facing to the right, and I'm going to draw a little bit of here. So this is where the rules of three comes in, right? So I have three in here. I'm going to shade in and color this shape. I want things to be matchy, but not the same. Does that make sense? And again, always, I know I like to repeat myself, but it's like, because I I myself need the reminder at times that it's really all about your personal preference. So this time, now, again, we talked about earlier about finding what feels natural to you. Finding what's natural to me, even when just writing or doodling, is that from the bottom up down. I always will have a hard time here because just I'm a righty. Maybe the lefties will find this easier and they're saying, ha ha. I'm like, okay, I'm struggling. Another tip, you can move your paper around. There is nothing wrong with that. So I know I will struggle in here and it will look like a mess. So I'm just going to move my paper a little bit to tilt it so I can create my teardrop. So a little bit facing to the left. Now I'm going to move here because this will be much better to me. So move your paper around. There is nothing wrong doing that. That is definitely does not look like that, but it's okay. We're going to embrace the mess, right? It's part of that process. So, okay, I'm just going to shade this in. And this part here. All right. All right. I really like that. So yeah, um, like what I said, if you have to move your paper, tilt it to the left, to the right, whatever is going to help you, make things easier for you, please do that. Don't feel like your paper is stuck or glued there. It is not glued in. You can always move it around. Okay, so it's 3:59. We're almost out of time, but we've learned a lot today. I know that doing the calligraphy with a brush pen is difficult. I am with you on that one. It took me lots of years of practice, but what helped me a lot is doing it consistently. I mean, I didn't plan to be, a teacher. I didn't plan to do this for a living, but now um I designed for companies. I designed stickers, stationaries, using my own letterings and using my own doodles and stuff like that. But when I first started, I didn't have that goal in mind. To me, it was all about just doing something for myself. And to be completely honest with you, with everything that's happening around lately, doing something for yourself, like what you are doing now, you should honor yourself for, trying to learn and spend a little time with just creative projects like this. It means a lot, you know. Your younger self, that little girl or little boy inside of you is really cheering you on, saying, yes, I enjoy this. I enjoy this 1 hour of just doing something creative and fun. And as always, you know, thank you, Michaels, for providing us with workshops like this. Even I myself, I really enjoy attending of the workshop, like crocheting, because I don't know how to do that, you know. So stuff like I don't know anything about, I enjoy these workshops. So thank you. And of course, thank you, Faber-Castell, for always having me. It's always a pleasure. Please do check out some of the schedules that we have. We have actually 3 coming up for next month. I'm teaching you more class, more tips and tricks. And I do hope that you join me again because I've had lots of fun today and I hope you did too. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, please stay creative and always stay happy. Thank you, everyone. Love to all. Bye.